Right then, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all having a better Thursday than I'm having. I'm at home, right? And I didn't want to do any videos at home this week. I prefer the look in the office, the trident and all that sort of stuff. And I'm trying to remodel this. But here we are. We're doing one from home. Why am I at home and why are you maybe not having a great Thursday state? Well, I'll tell you. Obviously, I drive a 30-year-old Land Rover Defender. One of the charms of the Land Rover Defender is that it breaks down frequently. I have like a loyalty card with the garage down the bottom of my street. And today, I only had third gear available to me, which is not a good thing. You kind of need more than third gear, don't you? Literally wouldn't get out of third gear, which is problematic because a 2.5-ton vehicle starting in third gear, gradually rev the bollocks off it a little bit. So I was on the way in, car's conked out, I've only got third gear. I drove it home and took it straight to the garage. And I'm thinking, it's a new gearbox. It's probably about 2.5 grand. Don't need that. Took it to the garage. It's a sound garage as well. And they reckon it's somewhat cheaper. A slave cylinder or cylinder slave, something like that. Something on the back of the gearbox anyway. Something that's not a major drama and not 2.5 grand. So happy days of that. Probably going to be out of action for about a week or so. But we move on. It's my choice to get a stupidly old car. It's my choice to live with a stupidly old car. How's your Thursday doing? And we'll talk about Delap. Righty then. So, according to the likes of Laurie, Chris Wheeler and Nathan Salt, United have got significant interest in Liam Delap. Obviously 22 years of age. Been at Ipswich this year. He's had a quite impressive Premier League season. He is a former Manchester City Academy prospect, so he knows the city. He joined Ipswich only in the summer for about 20 million. And despite Ipswich's struggles in the Prem, obviously in relegation zone, he scored 11. And he's drawn attention from quite a few big clubs, not least of all including United. Now, reports indicate that United's interest has intensified, which you would expect it to do. And I wonder how much of getting a deal agreed prior to them going down would suit Ipswich, because he's technically still a Premier League player and he's not obviously someone that's now a Championship player. And what that impact can have on the fee. Now, the fee that they're talking about is 40 million. And do you know what? I'm all right with 40 million, to be honest with you. I'd be quite all right with 40 million. We've struggled for goals this season. And obviously, if you brought him in, you would be asking him to improve on the 11 that he's got this season, potentially in a couple of years to be doubling that and hitting 21, 22. You would need him to be doing that. But the way Højlund's been playing, the way Zirkzee's been playing and not been scoring, and what you're getting out of the likes of Garnacho and that, for me, I like what he brings. I like his physicality. I like his attitude. I like his ruggedness. I like his pace. I like his ability to perform in a struggling side, which I'm hoping isn't a thing that he needs to get used to doing. When you look at the metrics of him and Højlund, so many of them are very, 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 very closely aligned. But I think Delap stands out in a few different areas. I think he takes shots from further out, which means he's getting on the ball further out. I think he is better in the air. I think he's better dribbling with the ball. And just those little... If you could take Højlund and improve a couple of those things, you've got a real player on your hands. So if I had to say, right now, cards on the table, do I think he's an upgrade on Rasmus Højlund? I would have to say he is, right? Not to the extent where I'm like, oh my God, he's loads better. Because I don't think he is loads better. I think he's like an improvement in a few areas. Not enormously better finisher in terms of pure raw finishing. Not enormously quicker. I think he is fast. I think he's probably a little bit better physically. I think it's an attitude thing, which I think I like. He's got an edge to him, which is such unquantifiable thing. But yeah, he's got a real edge to him that I like. You know, And a significant detail in this potential transfer could be that financial aspect. There's supposedly a release clause of 40 million, which makes him a hell of a lot more of an affordable option than Gyökeres. 40 million aligns with a buyback clause that City inserted, which said, City's could have a clause which is slightly lower, 29 to 30 million, and that gives him and City the option to re-sign, which could potentially complicate United's plans. But honestly, I don't think City'd be asked. I don't think City would just sign him just to stop United signing him. I think we're beyond those kind of days. But I do think this is a quite sensible sort of move. I think it's the sort of move that United would make in the past. And when I look at, I know he's currently a Premier League player, but when I look at like players in the Championship and I look at players, young players doing bits in bad teams in the Prem, what Delap's doing, what Diblin's doing, if United spent less than 100 million on those two players, I'd be quite happy with that, I would be quite happy with that. I think they're two young players that will grow. I think they've got all the makings of the right stuff. Melchett says, we need a world-class striker, not a potential small upgrade for Højlund and decent potential and resale value. Melchett, while I don't disagree with you, I think that you're not taking into account the reality of our situation. World-class strikers, who are they at the moment? Genuinely, is there 10 world-class strikers in world football at the moment? And how much are they going to cost you? Do you know what I mean? Martin says, City have a 40 million buyback, don't they? They'll just have him back rather than us getting him. I don't think that's the case. I don't think City, I know they're small time, but they're not that small time. Also, that their buyback means that they get to offer that much, and Ipswich accept it. Doesn't mean the player accepts it. Pawan says, when was the last time we developed a player patiently? Mason Greenwood. Okay. Ibracadabra says, they said we needed a world-class striker when we signed Zlatan, Falcao, Cavani, CR7 and Lukaku. That's a good point. CTB says, is there an expiry date on a City clause? I would presume it expires if his contract is bought out. Akbar says, don't Liam Delap a huge upgrade on Højlund. I think he means don't think he is. I'd rather we go and get Gyökeres. But that's the thing. If Gyökeres costs you twice as much, we might not have twice as much available. That's the problem. Like, yeah, I would agree with you that I tend to think that there's a lot more in signing. I would take Gyökeres over Liam Delap if you was giving me the option. Like, pick one of those, you can have one. Okay, cool. I'll have that one. However, I don't know if that's being offered. Do you know what I mean? Clyde says, signing Delap wouldn't hinder Obi Martin's growth in the backup role. I would not worry about signing anybody, hindering anybody, ever. When you look at Rashford, and people are immediately going to start groaning the second you mention Rashford, but hear me out on this. Anthony Martial was signed, and he's about a year older than Rashford. The summer Rashford made his debut in February. There was already Wayne Rooney. There was already... who else was the strikers that was at the club at the time? There's definitely Rooney. I'm trying to think who else was up front. I can't remember. Memphis for sure. I feel like Alexis Sanchez was there as well. Maybe he came later. I think he did come later. Either way, you already had a serious number of players. Falcao, you're right. In his position. Then he breaks through in February, and then the following season, United sign Mkhitaryan, Zlatan. Sanchez comes not long afterwards. Lukaku comes not long afterwards. And they all, I know that, not specifically left winger or striker or whatever, but he was playing in both of those kind of positions. At the end of the day, players will rise to the top. And I think it's a good idea to get players in, because you don't know what injuries are going to happen. You don't know what players are going to fall off. You don't know what players are going to not be able to handle playing for Manchester United. You just have to get the players in, and you have to see where it goes. And you have to work on trying to develop multiple players at once. And you can't just, for example, like you just sort of did, say, let's not sign any other kind of players because we've got Chido Obi to develop. What if Chido Obi gets a career-ending injury next weekend and you didn't sign someone because of that? You just have to... You can't sign 10, right? But 1 or 2 competing for positions isn't a massive drama, in my opinion. I think it's good to have options. Mark says, Howlund, Isaac, Kane, Lewandowski, Mbappe. I'd say they're the only world-class strikers around, not many to choose from. Yeah, you're probably right. Simon says we need lads that love a scrap, get him in. Morris says iron sharpens iron. We need competition for places to drive players to get better. I absolutely believe in that. CTB said, would it be possible to chuck City a tenner to cancel a buyback clause? I know you say not to worry, but I don't like it. You don't need to. I don't think it's relevant. I really don't. Talis says afternoon. Good afternoon. Where would I want Mainu to go if he leaves? I wouldn't want him to go. Kez says, I like Delap, seems to have that bit between his teeth, but would you get Shirky with his 25 million buyout over Diblin? That's the thing. To me, they're both sort of similar kind of players, similar kind of profiles, and I don't think it's necessarily an either or. I just said, no, I think those players are players that'll take us forward. So yeah, I'd be happy with either of those. Theo says Vivel is doing his shopping in Argentina. Mustano would be brilliant. There's a hell of a lot of good footballers on the up. I think like a relatively, I don't know if strong's the word I'm looking for, but like a good level domestic league, obviously with good level international competition in the Copa Libertadores, is great proving ground where you can play men's football at a good level, getting good international experience. If you're getting that at 19 and 20 and even 21, before you come over to a B-level European side, someone playing in the Champions League, playing at the top level, knockout stages of the Europa League, it's a great kind of stepping stone proving ground. And I do think that's a great way for people to develop before you move to those, upper echelon, United, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid sort of level of clubs. And I've put United in there, and I understand we're not in there, but it's where we want to be. So, yeah. Dave says, just needs body stay. David on a free could also be a good option. We absolutely have to look at the free market. For sure, have to look at the free market. I mentioned in one of my videos, Angel Gomez, I'd be just bringing him in. Some people think he's too small. I think with how few tackles there are in Premier League football compared to recent times, it's not a massive issue. It's only a massive issue if you play him alongside Bruno as a pivot, because the pair of them need a step ladder to get to the top shelf. So I think as long as you're playing him alongside someone with a bit more substance about them, it's not a drama. You can't have 3 or 4 in a midfield that are all that size. Certainly not in English football. But he's dealt with being that size his entire career, and he's carved out a career by being incredibly evasive without the ball and tenacious off the ball. So with the ball and tenacious without the ball. So I don't think it's a massive drama, to be honest. Andrew says if Gomez wants to come back, he should be brought back immediately. It would be idiotic to turn our nose up at someone who's playing well and wants to play for us and is free. Agree. Matthew says wouldn't touch Delap with a barge pole. Need a proven striker. Who is this proven striker? This mythical creature that you think you can get for 40 million quid? Akbar says, whatever happens, squad needs major surgery. Don't see us getting Champions League if we don't have a mega transfer window. Even if you do have a mega transfer window, I still don't know if it'd be enough in the first instance. Players have got to settle And, they've got to understand the system, and sometimes that can take 18 months. Atbar says if we can get Gyökeres, if Rashford, Højlund, Zirkzee, Mount and Anthony leave, there's not a fucking chance all of those players are going to leave. Not a fucking chance. And if all of those left just to bring one in, you've just completely detooled the squad. Like, look how many games all of those players have played this season. All of them have played, right? But they haven't played a lot, obviously, and some of them aren't at the club right now, but fucking hell, they've all played. So who plays those games that those players have played if you just sign one, and what happens if he gets injured? You've let 5 players go to bring one in. That's not building a squad. Is he an upgrade on every single one of them individually? Yes, he is. But 5 is better than 1, especially if that one got injured. Slash the Second says, how many youth players do I think would cement a place in the first team next season? Who knows? Heaven surprised me. So I don't know. Saban says, if I were offered Osimhen or Delap without taking into account the finances, which would I pick? Well, you have to take into account the finances. You have to take into account the finances because it doesn't happen inside of a vacuum. If you've got the option of Delap, and you've got the option of Osimhen, Delap might allow you to also sign a right wing back. Delap might also allow you to sign a number 10, like a Zirkzee or a Cunha or a Diblin. Osimhen might not. And, he is a bit of an older player. You've got to take into account that. Is he a better finisher and striker? Yeah, he is. I think he is. But then, does he settle in England? He might not. That was one of the things that was tried and tested. I think buying from the Championship and buying from other Premier League teams, I think that works out more often than it doesn't work out. And it's not 100%. Obviously, we've had players come from other Premier League teams and it not be a success for us. But those are few and far between. Atbar says they barely played, and when they played, they've been poor. Yeah, but what happens if that... You can't get rid of 5 for 1. And also, you're not getting rid of 5 for 1. It's so easy to say, let's just sell 5 players. Who's taking those 5 players on the wages that they're on? I would be amazed if you got rid of all of those 5. I could see Anthony going. I could see Rashford going. You think Zirkzee's going when we only signed him last year? Not a chance. He'll end up, at worst, he'll be a squad player, right? At worst. He'll still be around. He'll still be a squad player. Where's Højlund going? United would United would lose so much money on Højlund if they flipped him right now, and they're not going to do that. And who was the other one? There was another one in that list, wasn't there? Mount. Who the fuck is signing Mount when he's not played for 2 years? You basically kissed that entire bit of money away, and the contract he would get offered, he wouldn't accept. He'd be like, no, I'll just stay here. And also the manager likes him. There's not a prayer you're getting rid of 5 to bring 1 in. It's mental. Alma says, if Delap joins United, he will morph into a 24-25 Højlund. 100% not on this experience is needed. Brian says, Gyökeres and Osimhen is the dream signing, but why would either of them move to United right now? Wages would also be crazy high. You're right, that probably would be it. Gyökeres might go because of a prior existing relationship and a desire to play and test himself in the Prem. Maybe. But yeah. Notch says we'd end up reducing our squad to only 11 starters. Got to be realistic. Yeah, and the other thing with that is, if you did reduce it to 11 starters, I meant to do a video on it the other day because someone commented like an ins and outs with a net spend attached to it, and it was like, let's sell all of these and we'll get bam, 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 bam for them and sign these. Bam, 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 bam. It would have left you with a squad of about 15 players. And it was selling all sorts. Like, you're just not selling. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. You're not doing that. And it was selling like 18 players. And you're like, you realise we've had times this season where we've had 9 and 10 injuries. It's just bonkers. Subhan says, do I think we need a centre mid who can progress the ball with carries? Feel like we lack a lot of that. Yeah, I think a massively underrated skill. The best person I can explain to you who did that was Pogba. A massively underrated skill is a press-resistant midfielder that's physical, that can get on the ball and drive it forward 20 feet, 20 yard. Like, I think it sounds like such a basic thing to do, and you're like, but it genuinely is a phenomenal bit of skill to have. A genuine, phenomenal attribute that not a lot of midfielders have got. Would I take Salah on a free? No, and neither would he. There's not a prayer Salah would do that. Bob says, Zirkzee, Ahmad, Jonathan, David would be a tasty combination of pace, guile and creativity. Zirkzee need runners around him. I do agree on that with Zirkzee needing runners around him. I'm not all aboard the Zirkzee hype train. I think he's got, like, weirdly good agility for the size of him, because he looks like he plays second row for Salford Reds. And he's got good vision. But he ain't quick. And he really needs to score some more goals. He's got to score some more goals. Simple as that. John says, if Delap played in another league, everyone was saying we need to sign him. Life O'Reilly says, we've been crying out for a centre mid that can carry the ball for God knows how long. Lee says, do I think we need a fire sale, but then in the same breath, you ain't getting big money for these we'd want to sell? Yeah, sort of. I mean, it did it in the video. I've already done it on the video, so go and watch that. But in a nutshell, the likes of Casemiro, Rashford, Sancho, probably Anthony, maybe Maguire moved on. People like Lindelof, I could just see sticking around. Do I think he's going to start week in, week out? No. But, he's not on a big wage. He's just going to sit around and chill on, let's be honest, it's more than we're on, but, sit around and chill, not rock the boat, and come in and be reliable whenever he's relied upon. Literally what Johnny Evans has just been doing, but not to the same level Johnny Evans has been doing it. Like, I would absolutely have that. You need that. You need that at times when someone's just, do you know what, today my hamstring's a bit tight today, I'm going to leave it. Okay, fine. You need that flexibility to be able to do that. David Ramsey says, Amorim needs to get out of this club. Right, well, he's probably not going to, mate. So why are you wasting your breath in this stream? You could be doing something productive. Couldn't you? Kez says, I would like to buy Frimpong, Ravella, Cherky, David. David cost about 140 mil. Yeah, you're probably not too far off in terms of how much that would all cost. There seems to be quite a few players there, and there are quite a few players that are being linked with, Frimpong being one, Delap being another. Players that I've got, relatively sensible, I think it would be fair to say, release clauses. And I think if you get people in on sensible release clauses, you eliminate that getting bent over the way United always do whenever we ring up anyone. Like, you ring up, I'm interested in signing your centre forward, and they go, okay, who's calling? And they go, Manchester United, and they'd be like, pass us that price list. No, the one that says if United ring. Yeah, I think we just get fucking bent over, don't we? Such is life. Davo says Lindelof and Ericsson are out of contract. If we sell Maguire, we probably need to sign one. Yeah, Ericsson's gone as well, I would imagine. Unless you can stick him on a +1, which he might do. I think he's got kids in the area. So this is the one thing that people always forget about when it comes to transfers. Players are human beings. Now, they're very wealthy human beings, but they are human beings. And baffling shit happens when you go, hang on, he's not playing. He's not doing blah, blah, blah. But you forget that they might have a missus, they might have kids, and the missus and the kids might be like, I actually really like it here. Can we stick around? And then you go, why has he ended up signing for fucking Burnley or something like that? He likes the area. Like, there's all sorts of fucking nutty reasons that make zero sense from a sporting point of view, from a contract point of view. And then you find out someone's signed and stuck around, and then you go, fair play. Didn't expect that. That might be the case with Ericsson. That might be the case with Lindelof. I'm not saying that is the case. I'm just saying, things like this happen that you don't always know. Linton says, when United call the other teams double the price. Yeah. Super chat there from BR says, Steve, can I see Bendito Mandato given some minutes for some flair? We lack courage and creativity and clear chances. I think he's just signed an extension, or his first pro, hasn't he? I've got... Let me just have a look at the list. I've got some player profiles to do because there's quite an interesting contract content for us to do. But Mantato is one of them. I'm going to do a worry with Osimhen, which we already did a couple of years ago, but we're going to update it. We're going to look at what we said in the last one and go back and do that as well. We've got a few. There's another scout report to do, and the other, I'm just looking at my scripts here that I've got to do, and then the other one is the preview. So that will be what we're doing. Greg says, have I got a Land Rover 90, 110 or 130? I have got a 110. It's a 1994 jungle green 200 TDI, which shakes when it goes to about 62 mile an hour. But it's a plodder and I like it. It looks a bollocks. I've never fit a car as much in my fucking life. I love it, and I wouldn't change it, but it is spendy. Would I be happy with Delap? Yeah, I'd be pretty optimistic with Delap, actually. Jordan says, well, I'd like to see us sign a new goalie. I think Trafford would be a good fit. I think Onana gets a lot of shit. People are even revising how good he was last season. They're like, all I want to see him do is be a good shot stopper. And you're like, well, he was like, I think statistically the best shot stopper in the fucking league last season. This season, I don't know what's happened. There's been a lot of errors, been a lot of mistakes. I don't know. Would I ever get the new Defender? What I would say is the new Defender is the best car I've ever driven. If I had the disposable income to have multiple cars, possibly, yeah. But right now, nah. How often does something break on it? 3 or 4 times a year. And we're not talking little things either. We're talking like it needs to go into the garage for 2 or 3 weeks. Alex says Onana ain't the problem at the moment. Linton says Brighton have some amazing players, but they'll be 100 million if we call. Brighton have replaced Spurs, haven't they, in terms of the new ring them up, get your ass handed to you sort of thing. Devo says Osimhen is pure chaos. Would love to see it. Yeah, I straddle loads of things. Like, I try and be sensible, but my bell. And I love organisation, but I fucking love chaos at the same time. And I want to see a team that plays with an identity, but I also want a team that just fucking plays off the cuff as well. So, life's about contradictions, innit? And that's what makes it interesting. Otherwise, it'd be fucking boring. Can you imagine that? Andrew says Trafford will be back up at City for sure. Do you know, a lot of the lads, City don't really re-sign any of the players that they've let go. A lot of the lads didn't really enjoy the way they came through at City or the opportunities that they weren't given at City. So, again, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you're ever going to see all of these players that came through at City. I don't think many of them have got much love for City. Marie says, you're describing United under Ole. I miss it. I said all along, the best football we've played post-Fergie was under Ole. No two ways around it. No two ways around it. 54 Dunk says, Cantona like chaos would do me, Steve. Oh. 2 players that made me absolutely lose my mind watching them. That I would pay significant amount of money to go back in time. Not to experience anything else, not to buy fucking Bitcoin or fucking buy Google stock. Just to be able to go and watch 90 minutes of football without interruption. R9 and Eric Cantona. And very different in the way they played the game. Totally different in the way they played the game. I would have... Oh, could you imagine if they ever played together? fucking... That would be unfucking fathomable how good that would be. Wow. I saw a video a couple of days ago of like a montage of players talking about R9. Ruud van Nistelrooy talking about how R9 was the best player he ever played with, and he played with a fucking busted, broken, finished R9. Zlatan talking about him. Seedorf talking about him. R9 was an absolute fucking disgrace. For me, he was the very highest peak any footballer has ever reached. Now, Messi and Cristiano, I don't think they ever quite touched the very peak that R9 got to, because the game was different, fouls were different. His physicality and dribbling ability was like Ronaldo and Messi, Cristiano and Messi rolled into one. It was unfathomable that a 14-stone bloke could do the sort of things he did. He was them two rolled into one. Now, injuries and whatever meant that he never got to do the longevity that Cristiano and Messi have done. They go down as 1 and 2 of the greatest players of all time, because not only did they hit, we're talking like 1% below R9 in terms of just ability, match-winning ability. But the fact that they've both done it for 20 years, in terms of like when you look back on the greatest players of all time, R9, because of the injury, slips right down that list, probably under Cruyff and others in terms of contribution to the game. And Cruyff doesn't get spoken about anywhere near enough either, to be honest. Cruyff, people call players a genius, right? Cruyff was a genuine genius. He understood the game to a level none of us will ever probably understand the game. Cruyff might be the most important footballer that's ever lived. Raymundo says, Steve, did I see that Rene went in a little bit on Ruben yesterday? Oh, no. And listen, when Rene Mullenstein talks, you listen. So can someone tweet me that, please? This Rene Mullenstein on Ruben, please. I wouldn't mind having a look at that. Andrew says, 1 substitution at Forest, changed 4 players' positions on the field and murdered our structure. We just need players you can sub on without having to move 4 players to accommodate. And Dry says, sad fact, I've never watched 5 minutes of Cantona's football. Oh. The way I would describe it is I watched football for like 2-3 years before Cantona came to United. And for me, football, I liked football. Paul Ince was my favourite player at the time. Why? Combative. Big fucking long thighs and the shortest of shorts. You couldn't miss him on a pitch. Flying into tackles, all action, genuine box-to-box midfielder. Savage. You had the likes of Ryan Giggs coming through, quite exciting. But when Cantona came, football went from black and white to colour. And it's not too far off from an age when that actually kind of happened, where football was black and white and it was colour. I was watching colour football before that. I didn't really watch football in black and white. That's a bit before my time. But metaphorically, Cantona coloured it in. Cantona brought colour to a black and white game for me. That's my experience of it. I saw the game so much differently once I started watching Eric Cantona play. And it's when you start to see... I think when you're football maturing watch, probably the reason why I like Paul Ince is because his action, it draws the eye. And as a 7-year-old, that's the sort of thing that you watch. You know, players that can move the ball, dribble the ball, score lots of goals, they draw the eye. What Cantona did was exist in space. He turned a 4-4-2 rigid grid-based game into just total football, as taught by Cruyff. He moved in areas that, you know, you're not like, what are you doing? Go stand up there against your centre half and win headers was the game. And Cantona was like, no, I'm going to fucking appear here in the right half space. I'm going to go link up with that fullback and overload over here. I'm going to, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what Eric did. And then Manchester United's one-touch football, which never gets spoken about, never gets credit about. Third man run central, one-touch football, but fucking penetrative, powerful, pacey. Fucking the best expression of football I've seen. Probably culminated post-Cantona, really, with the 99 team. And Dwight York never gets the credit for taking on Eric Cantona's mantle of coming in between the lines and knitting the play up. You think that fucking 1-2 with York and Cole happened because they were a partnership? No, it happened because one played off the other one. It was different gravy. You know, and to go back to what R9 was doing, it's fucking picking the ball up on the halfway line, receiving 17 fouls, taking it around the keeper and putting it in the fucking back of the net. Wow. And imagine them playing together. What do? Do you follow Cantona into the space and leave R9 1v1? Do you drop a midfielder in to try and deal with Cantona so you can stay 2v1 on R9? Cool. Now Scholes or Keane are going to end up in space and you're fucked. That's football for me. And the thing is, I like football systems. I like that sort of stuff. But, shit. Those two players were the most off-the-cuff players you've ever seen. Jason says, bet your car is so bad for the environment. On one hand, probably. On another hand, it is a 30-year-old car. So whilst people are driving around in their fucking 18-month-old plastic boxes that have required so much more oil and manufacturing, I'm driving around in essentially what is a recycled vehicle, still in use. On one level does that balance out, eh? People in their fucking electric cars with the mentality that goes on with mining. Meanwhile, recycled fucking car. Shit that can last forever. Your move. Fall Guy says, we now live in the age of football analysis. The old United side were great, but they would not survive in the modern game. What the fuck are you on about? The 1999 side would not survive in the... How? They were about as fit, certainly as quick, certainly as technical. What's the strategic differences now in football that you think the 99 team wouldn't cope with? You think because they played 4-4-2? For starters, they didn't. They played 4-2-3-1, which is a modern system of play. A little bit aggressive with the wingers. Yeah, probably. Is that an issue? Fall Guy says the 99 side were outclassed by Bayern. We got lucky. Yeah, we did get lucky in that particular game, but we were also missing our two midfielders. Manchester City have lost Rodri and the wheels have completely fucking fallen off. So we were outclassed by Bayern fucking Munich in a game that we still won. Right, okay. Is that your... Right, okay. Scott Harrop says, Cruyff, player manager, unreal contribution to the game. It's Cruyff. 50 foot of shit before anybody else gets a touch in terms of what he did as a player and a manager. He genuinely hit the top levels in both. And people can say, oh, Zidane won the Champions League as a manager and as a player. Okay, cool. He ain't Cruyff. And he's not even close to it. Like, I've never heard Johan Cruyff Zinedine Zidane extol a philosophy and be as transformative to the game as Johan Cruyff was. And so, what's the word I'm looking for with it? Dictatorial about it as well. Beckenbauer is close as a player and a manager. I think he was excellent in both, but I don't think he's ever going to be anywhere near as transformative. I don't think there exists a player that was as transformative. Endry says Pogba ball was something else. Andrew says Zidane parachuted into a Real Madrid team full of Galacticos and ran away when they needed a rebuild. I'm not going to take away what he achieved, though. Adam says no chance we hit the ground running come transfer window. Worst run club going. Morris says Johan gets demerits because of his teachings. From his teachings, we got Pep. Well, yeah, you did. You also got Jose. You also got plenty of others. Just because Guardiola was a disciple of Johan Cruyff doesn't mean that what he's teaching is Cruyff protocol necessarily. Because Cruyff probably wanted it way more laissez-faire than the systematic. I'd have to have a Google of some searches because I'm pretty sure he slagged off Barcelona for being fucking boring, you know. Let me have a quick gander. Ridwan says, you know these expensive central midfielders like Rice, Enzo, Casado were all 100 million. None of them have outstanding ability like Pogba. Go and see these Pogba clips. He has ridiculous ability. Yes. Wayne says, we should always have players with a better pace. Our build-up is too slow to utilise that pace. I absolutely agree with that. I think our build-up is very, very slow. It's the one obvious change outside of the formation that you can see between Ten Hag and Amorim. Real obvious. Travis says Ronnie Johnson going into midfield in the night. His Scholes playing off the front. Fergie was always more tactically adaptable than he was given credit for. Massively so. Look at the way we played a free in the last 20 minutes of the final against Bayern. Yeah, he was way more tactically adept than he gets credit for. Way more tactically adept than he gets credit for. Teza says clips and highlights don't do justice to the whole package. NZDND says, have I mentioned Pele? No, I've not mentioned Pele. And you probably should mention Pele. But I think Pele suffers because of the lack of competitive football that he played. He wasn't really the best player in the Brazil teams that he played in. He was the most famous, not necessarily the best. And the fact that he toured and Santos used him as a vehicle for revenue. Imagine at peak Barcelona days that Barcelona on a fucking Tuesday and a Thursday night, because there wasn't European competition for them to play in, just took Messi to go and play against Nottingham Forest. And then Thursday night they played against Sheff Wednesday. And then at weekend they were back to go and play in Spain again. It isn't really something that you can compute now because of the Champions League and the way that sort of stuff has gone. And obviously, the internet, clips and footage being available the way they are, people wanted to go and see Pele because he was a cultural phenomenon, and you didn't have the opportunity to go watch people like that on a regular basis. So Santos played the hand that they were dealt, which is let's go and fucking have Pele playing all of these friendlies. Now, you go to Sheffield Wednesday or Burnley or Stoke or United or whoever on a Tuesday or a Thursday night, they sell out Old Trafford, they make a little bit of cash. Santos split the revenue with them, or they get paid a flat fee to bring Pele and have a fucking kickabout. But those games are not serious fucking games. And they're probably treated like that. United are playing Arsenal on Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock. Do you think they're going to put their full fucking 11 out against Pele on Thursday night? No, they're just fucking getting a bit of cash in. So you can't really count those games. Is that to say he was a shit player? No, he clearly wasn't shit. He was clearly phenomenally talented. I just don't think we're going to ever be able to fully understand how good he was because we didn't get to see him against the best players in the world at the time. What does my granddad make of Pele? The only thing he's ever said about Pele is he wouldn't have got a fucking kick in '58 if Munich hadn't have happened. It's like Duncan Edwards would have just fucking shut him down. David says, never knew that about Pele and Santos. Thanks for sharing. Did you not? I thought, yeah. Hostad says, is that what our postseason tour is? Yeah, that's exactly what our postseason tour is. Go and give people in the Far East the opportunity to watch United up close. That was basically what Santos did year fucking round. Same thing. It's the same, exact same thing. Does anybody take our preseason friendly stats serious? No. Does anyone take those games serious? No. No, mean. Far says, Pele is a great unknown, kept in Brazil and put on tour to make money. He was great, but the greatest, probably not. I think in terms of what he achieved and how good he was, I think Maradona sits above him. I think Maradona might be the third greatest player of all time in terms of just like in that ability. Go to Napoli. Napoli. I can't give you the equivalent. Notch, might be able to give me the equivalent. What were Napoli at the time that Maradona went there? And wins the league there. Supposedly single-handedly. I know that's never the case, but supposedly single-handedly. This is what makes me laugh about Barcelona. Barcelona's a mad fucking club, man. When you look back at some of the players that they've had, that's an all-time 11 to try and put together, isn't it? Napoli had never even won a title before. Barcelona have had Cruyff, Maradona, R9, Messi, and Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets, Lineker. The players Barcelona have had is fucking nuts. 54 Dunk says they were behind Milan, Juve, and Inter at the time. Even Parma would have been a better option for Maradona. I don't know if Parma would have been an option at the time. I think Parma came good with the Parma Ham family, and when they were good, it was like when they had the likes of Buffon, Cannavaro, Zola, etc. in the 90s. Andrew says, a breakdown video idea for you. The significance and history of clubs touring friendlies for money. Be curious who started it. Let me write that down. Let's look into that. Alex Bailey says Leicester. Was that their first title, Leicester, or they not won a title before? I feel like Leicester had won a title before, but I could be wrong in that. Notch says Parmalat. Parma were only big from 90 to 99. There you go. Yeah, Parma. There you go. Pure 90s. Fucking hell, Red Devil says Ronaldinho. Yeah. And Rivaldo. Leonardo says Delap for 11 goals in the last 3 years. Højlund 16, 8 last 3 years. Both 22. Convince me he's what we need. He's played about a quarter of the games, I think. Travis says, what nation has had the biggest drop-off in quality of players? Holland, Italy, or Brazil? Probably Brazil, because it's significantly bigger than those. I mean, Holland is literally smaller than fucking London. Italy has fell off. I think everywhere has fell off, really. But probably Brazil. Romario. Fucking hell, Romario. Romario never gets brought up in these conversations. The guy scored about 700 fucking goals. Morris says, I hope Maradona's grandson doesn't play football. The pressure on that kid would be tremendous. Yeah. Grandson of Maradona, the son of Aguero, and the godson of Messi. If ever there was the fucking coming together of chaos, that could be the one, couldn't it? Fucking hell. Do you know what? I hope he's like Maradona. I hope he's off his fucking nut like Maradona. We need more characters like that. CTB says Uruguay have a population of like 400k. They're some incredible overachievers. Uruguay might be the world's biggest overachievers in football. They might be. They genuinely might be in terms of what they have been able to produce. I was reading something the other day as well, which says it's one of the better South American countries to go to, and I've never considered going to Uruguay in my life. But it made me have a think. Maybe it's worth having a go. Mustafa says a lot of people have been appreciating longevity more than ability, so I'd like to ask you, who would I like to watch? Ronaldinho for 6 months or Salah for 8 years? Oh, Ronaldinho for 6 months. Ronaldinho did stuff that fucking physicians can't, or physicists, sorry, and physicians, fuck it, they can't explain it either. He did shit with a ball that no one understands. Just no one understands. Adam says Uruguay have a population of like 4 million, just when it's mint. Berkson says probably Croatia. Croatia's a good shout as well, yeah. It's interesting, that, yeah. Oh, I wonder if you did a World Cup for countries with a population of under 5 million. What are we talking? Belgium, Uruguay. I think Holland might be over that. Might not be, though. Wales get in there. Uruguay come in as heavy favourites, don't they? Who else have we got? Croatia are going to be in that. Denmark. How big's Denmark? Denmark, is that about 7 million? What do we reckon? What an interesting tournament that would be. What an interesting tournament that would be. How big's Portugal? Portugal feels a lot bigger than that. Melchett says Netherlands about 18 million. Oh, Belgium's 11. I thought Belgium was a lot smaller than that. My bad. Ireland might have a chance. What's Ireland? Alex says Scotland still go out in the group. Scotland's 8-9 million, I think. Portugal is 10. All right. What if it was 10 million? 10 million's a nice size then, isn't it? Wonder what you're going to get with that. That'd be very interesting. Brian says we generally hover about the 5 million mark. Scotland is 5.5 million. All right. I always thought it was bigger than that. Bigger by fucking area. There's no fucker there. Anyways, I think we've wandered off into the weeds enough here. Take it easy. We'll be back tomorrow. Ugh. And I get the phone call later for how much this fucking defender's going to cost me. Fucking cheers. Anyways, that's me. Take it easy. See you in a bit. Bye-bye. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, five-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.